My fiancée mocked my dead mother's ring in front of her friends, so I ended the engagement publicly and watched her world collapse overnight. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I really thought I'd found the woman my late mother would have been proud of. When I met Emily, I wasn't even looking for love. I was still grieving, floating through life like a man stuck in an old photograph. My mom had passed 2 years earlier, and nothing felt real since. But Emily, she had this way of speaking softly, like she understood pain without needing to ask about it. We met at a friend's small gathering. While others were laughing too loud, she sat beside me and quietly said, "You look like you miss someone." No one had ever noticed that before. That night, we talked for hours, about music, about losing people too early, about rebuilding yourself when the world stops caring. I remember thinking, this woman gets it. Weeks turned into months. Emily was patient, gentle. She never rushed me out of my grief. On my mother's death anniversary, she brought flowers and sat with me at the cemetery, listening as I told stories about how Mom used to make pancakes shaped like hearts every Sunday. She didn't cry for attention. She just held my hand. That silence felt sacred. When I finally opened the box of my mother's old belongings, Emily helped me dust each piece off carefully. Her eyes softened when I pulled out a small velvet case. Inside was my mother's ring. Simple gold, no diamonds, just worn edges and warmth. My mom used to say, "Love doesn't need to sparkle to be real." I looked at that ring and felt something click inside me, like life was giving me a chance to bridge the past and the future. I decided right then that one day Emily would wear it. The woman my mother would have loved. The woman I thought I'd spend forever with. But I didn't know then. That ring would be the reason everything shattered. When I finally decided to propose, I wanted it to feel like my mother was still part of it. I spent weeks planning every detail. The timing, the words, even the spot. My mom used to take me to this quiet lake when I was little. She said it was where the world pauses long enough to listen. That's where I took Emily. It was late afternoon. The sky was blushing orange and the air smelled like rain waiting to happen. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I slipped my mother's ring into my pocket. Emily stood at the edge of the dock, her hair catching the wind, and I thought, Mom would have loved her. When I dropped to one knee, her eyes widened, and for a second, I saw something raw, shock, maybe disbelief. Then came the tears. "Yes," she whispered before I even finished asking. I slid the ring onto her finger, and she looked down at it like it carried a piece of heaven. She hugged me tight, and in my ear she said, "It's perfect. I'm honored to wear it." My chest ached with relief. It wasn't just a proposal, it was healing. For the first time since my mother's death, I felt like the world made sense again. We called her parents that night. They were thrilled. When we met her friends later, they congratulated her, gasping at the ring. "It's vintage," one said. Emily smiled softly and replied, "It belonged to his mom." They cooed about how sentimental it was, and she seemed proud to say it. I remember thinking, this woman really respects my mother. But a few days later, as we lay in bed, she turned the ring on her finger and muttered, "You know, maybe one day we could get it reset. Just to make it shine again." I laughed it off. I told myself it was a harmless comment, but something about her tone stayed with me. Something I couldn't quite name. Not yet. The first time I noticed Emily's tone change was during wedding planning. It started small, tiny comments that didn't sound cruel at first, but left bruises anyway. We were choosing venues, and I pointed out a cozy place with wooden beams and a garden that reminded me of my mom's backyard. Emily smiled thinly. "It's cute," she said, "but don't you think it's a little basic? I mean, everyone does rustic weddings now." Her voice was sweet, but the kind of sweet that leaves a sting. I brushed it off. Maybe she just wanted something grander. She was meticulous about every detail, flowers, lighting, even the table linens. "Our wedding should look timeless," she'd say, scrolling through Pinterest boards filled with luxury setups that looked like movie scenes. One afternoon, while we were visiting her parents, her mom asked to see the ring. Emily hesitated before holding her hand out. Her mother tilted her head. "Oh, that's an antique?" Emily laughed softly. Yeah, it's sentimental. Then she added, almost under her breath, not really my style, but it means a lot to him. They both smiled politely, and my stomach turned. Later that night, I told her that comment felt off. She sighed, Babe, you're too sensitive. I didn't mean anything by it. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But over the next few weeks, the pattern grew clearer. She started comparing everything I liked to what her friends had. Houses, cars, even family traditions. They just do things differently, she'd say. It's not bad, just more refined. Her words dug deeper each time. And yet, I still told myself she was just nervous or trying too hard to impress people. I didn't realize she wasn't just planning a wedding. She was rewriting the story of us, and I was quietly being edited out. Still, the ring stayed on her finger. But lately, she'd started wearing it less often. Somewhere along the way, Emily stopped planning a wedding and started directing a production. Everything became about how it would look. The theme, the lighting, the social media coverage. She started referring to our wedding as the event, like it was a launch party instead of a promise. I'd catch her rehearsing poses in front of the mirror, tilting her head, checking which side the ring looked better on. When I'd walk in, she'd quickly smile and say, just trying to make sure we look perfect together. At first, it felt flattering, until I realized we really meant her. She hired a photographer months in advance, not for the wedding, but to document the journey. She wanted photos of the bride-to-be lifestyle, brunches, fittings, shopping trips. I was an accessory in those pictures, smiling next to her while she sparkled for the camera. One evening, I overheard her on a call with a friend. Yeah, he's sweet, she said. Not really the luxury type, but he's stable. It's kind of romantic, in a humble way. The words hit me harder than I expected. Humble. Like she was settling for something below her level. When I brought it up later, she laughed. Oh my God, you're twisting things again. I meant it as a compliment. You're grounded, babe. Don't get insecure. But insecurity had nothing to do with it. I just wanted to feel respected. Still, I swallowed my pride, smiled for the photos, and tried to convince myself I was imagining it. The worst part, I noticed the ring less and less in her selfies. In some, it was turned around. In others, gone completely. When I asked, she shrugged. It just doesn't go with every outfit. That was the first time I felt my mother's ring. And the love it symbolized, starting to disappear right before my eyes. Emily invited me to a dinner with her closest friends one Friday night. She said it was just a little get-together, but when we walked into the private room at this upscale restaurant, I realized it was anything but casual. The women were polished, loud, and intimidating. The kind of people who seemed to measure worth in designer labels and last names. I tried to fit in, smiling when they asked about the proposal, about how we met. They all cooed and gasped at the right moments until one of them leaned forward and said, "Let's see the ring." Emily hesitated, then lifted her hand with a sheepish grin. "Oh, this old thing?" She laughed. It was his mom's. There was a pause, just long enough for the words to sink in, before another woman tilted her head and said, "Oh, sentimental, huh?" The tone wasn't kind. It was the kind of word people use when they're trying not to say cheap. Emily smiled, playing along. "Yeah, it's sweet. But we'll probably replace it after the wedding. Something a little more us." Laughter rippled across the table. Someone joked about upgrades after marriage, and another asked if I was okay with her teasing. I smiled weakly, but inside something shattered. I couldn't even taste the food after that. All I heard was their laughter, her laughter, echoing over the clinking of glasses. When we got home, I tried to speak up. "Emily, why would you say that?" She sighed dramatically. "Oh, come on. It was a joke. You're so sensitive." "No," I said quietly. "You mocked my mother's ring." She rolled her eyes. "It's my ring now. And honestly, you shouldn't take everything so personally." That was the moment I realized she didn't just disrespect the ring. She disrespected everything it stood for. And I couldn't unhear the laughter that followed her words. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying her words again and again. It's my ring now. The way she said it, like ownership erased meaning, like my mother's love was some old trinket to be mocked and replaced. The next morning, I confronted her. My voice was calm at first, but it trembled underneath. Emily, do you understand what that ring means to me? It's not just jewelry. It's my mom's memory. It's her hands holding mine again. She didn't even look up from her phone. You're being dramatic, babe. I didn't mean anything by it. Yes, you did, I said louder this time. You laughed at my mother's ring, at her memory. You humiliated me in front of people who barely know me. Finally, she sighed and set her phone down, eyes rolling. You're really going to do this? Over a piece of metal. Your mom's gone. You can't let that control your life forever. The words cut deeper than she could ever imagine. I felt something inside me snap. A quiet, painful break that no amount of apology could fix. I stared at her, searching for remorse, but all I saw was annoyance. Emily, I said quietly, when you said yes, I thought it was because you loved me. Not because you loved how it looked. She crossed her arms. I do love you. But you're impossible sometimes. You twist everything into drama. I wanted to scream, to make her see what she'd done. But instead, I walked away. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't sorry. She didn't even think she'd done anything wrong. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just about a ring anymore. It was about the person I'd chosen to spend forever with, and the stranger she'd become. A few days passed after that argument. Emily acted as if nothing had happened. Cheerful, affectionate, posting date night photos with captions like, "My forever person." It made me sick to see her acting so loving online when, behind closed doors, she treated my pain like an inconvenience. Then, one evening, I got a text from my college friend, Lauren. She used to be part of Emily's social circle before things got awkward. "Hey," she wrote, "I think you should see this." Attached were screenshots, messages from Emily's group chat. My chest tightened as I scrolled. There it was, in her own words. He proposed with his mom's ring. I mean, it's sweet, but it looks like something from a thrift store. Once we're married, I'm totally getting it reset. I deserve something real. His sentimental sob stories are exhausting sometimes. Each line felt like a punch to the gut. This wasn't one careless joke. It was months of mockery. She'd been ridiculing the most sacred part of me to the people she cared about most. Lauren texted again. I'm sorry. I didn't want to get involved, but it's not right what she's saying about you. I sat there numb, reading and rereading those words until they blurred. The woman I thought respected my grief had been turning it into gossip. The empathy that drew me to her had been nothing more than performance. That night, when Emily came home, she smiled and kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. I just stared at her. This stranger who wore my mother's ring and my trust like matching accessories. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because in that moment, my heartbreak began turning into something colder, sharper. A plan. If she cared so much about appearances, then I'd let her world collapse in the one place she valued most, in front of everyone watching. From that night on, everything changed. Not for her, but for me. I stopped trying to fix things. I stopped explaining how I felt. I just smiled, agreed with her plans, and let her believe I was still the same man who worshipped the ground she walked on. But inside, I was done. I was just waiting. Emily noticed the change, but mistook it for maturity. See, she'd say, wrapping her arms around me. We're finally past all that tension. I'd smile back, pretending to believe it too. But every time she mentioned our big day, I felt my chest tighten. Not with love, but with resolve. I started preparing quietly. I backed up the screenshots Lauren sent me. I gathered old texts where Emily mocked the ring or joked about marrying beneath her bracket. I even found voice notes she sent to her friends, laughing about how she'd make me level up once we're married. Every word was another nail in the coffin of what I thought we had. Meanwhile, she was busy playing the perfect fiancée, hosting parties, showing off her dress fittings, flaunting her glow-up. She loved attention like oxygen. So, I decided that's where the truth would breathe too, in the spotlight she craved. When her parents planned a pre-wedding celebration, a formal dinner with family, friends, and even her social circle, she was ecstatic. "Everyone important will be there," she said, eyes sparkling. I nodded. "Perfect," I replied. She thought I meant for us, but deep down I knew that night would be for me, the night I'd stop being her quiet shadow. I remember standing in front of the mirror that evening, adjusting my tie, feeling strangely calm. My reflection looked unfamiliar. Not broken anymore, not grieving, just ready. Because the moment I'd been waiting for was almost here, and she had no idea what was coming. The night of the pre-wedding dinner felt almost cinematic. Chandeliers glowing, glasses clinking, Emily in her perfectly tailored white dress, glowing like a woman who'd already won. She floated around the room, laughing with her friends, posing for photos, soaking up every ounce of admiration. I watched her quietly, every fake smile, every insincere laugh, all of it. When it was my turn to speak, she didn't expect much. Just a thank you toast, maybe something sweet about love and family. I stood up, holding the mic, feeling every eye turned toward me. My heart pounded, but my voice was steady. "I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight," I began. "It means a lot to celebrate this moment with the people who matter most, to both of us." Emily smiled across the room, her hands clasped together like she was waiting for her cue. I glanced at the ring on her finger. "That ring," I said, my tone softening, "belonged to my mother. She left it for the woman she believed would cherish it. Someone who'd wear it with pride and kindness." A murmur went through the crowd. Emily's smile faltered. "But unfortunately," I continued, "not everyone sees value in love that isn't shiny enough for a photo. Some see it as outdated, or even embarrassing." Emily froze, her friends shifting uncomfortably. I could feel the tension tighten around the room like invisible wire. I pulled out my phone and read one of her messages aloud. The one where she called my mom's ring a thrift store relic. Gasps echoed. Emily's eyes widened, color draining from her face. "I can't marry someone who mocks what love means to me," I said quietly. Then, placing the ring on the table, I finished, "So I'm giving it back to the only person who deserves it. My mom." I walked out. No shouting, no chaos. Just silence and stunned faces behind me. And in that silence, Emily's perfect world began to collapse. The moment I stepped out of that hall, it was like the air itself shifted. Heavy, electric, final. I didn't look back, but I could hear the murmurs growing, chairs scraping, the buzz of confusion as people tried to piece together what just happened. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already lighting up. At first, it was Emily. "What the hell was that?" she texted. Then another message, "You ruined me." I didn't reply. I just sat there, staring at the ring box resting on the passenger seat. My mother's ring, back where it belonged. The next morning, everything started to unravel. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Someone at the dinner had recorded the whole thing, and the clip hit social media within hours. I didn't share anything myself. I didn't need to. People did it for me. Comments poured in beneath the video. "Good for him. That woman didn't deserve him. Mocking a dead parent's ring? That's beyond cruel. Imagine losing everything over your own arrogance." Emily's influencer friends went silent. Sponsors started backing out of her brand deals. Her PR statement, a half-hearted apology, only made things worse. Everyone could see right through it. She tried blaming the stress of wedding planning, but no one bought it. Her world revolved around image, and now that image was rotting in public view. I heard through mutual friends that she'd lost over half her followers in 2 days. Even her family kept their distance, embarrassed by the scandal. Meanwhile, I said nothing. I didn't post, didn't comment, didn't gloat. I went to work, made coffee, and sat in quiet peace. Because revenge didn't need fireworks, sometimes silence ruins louder than any scream ever could. And as the noise of her downfall echoed online, I finally felt the one thing I hadn't in years: calm. Days turned into weeks, and the chaos surrounding Emily slowly faded, at least for everyone else. But for me, life had never felt quieter. No phone constantly buzzing with updates, no fake smiles, no tightrope of pretending things were fine. Just stillness. For the first time in years, it was just me, and the sound of my own peace. One evening, I was sitting on my apartment balcony when my phone buzzed again. Her name. I hesitated before answering, curiosity winning over reason. Her voice cracked as soon as I said hello. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt you like that." There was no arrogance left, just exhaustion. "I was insecure," she confessed. "I wanted people to see me a certain way. I thought if everything looked perfect, it would be perfect. But I ruined it all. For a second, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered how she'd looked at that ring, how she'd laughed when people mocked it, how she'd made me doubt my mother's love. "Emily," I said quietly, "you didn't ruin it because of a mistake. You ruined it because you never cared about what was real." She sobbed softly on the other end. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I paused. Forgive? Maybe, someday. But forget? Never. Before she could reply, I ended the call. I stared out into the night, feeling no anger, no regret, just the weight of finality. A few days later, I took my mother's ring to a jeweler, not to sell it, but to have it restored. The gold was polished, the small scratches smoothed out, and I had it placed on a thin chain. I wear it under my shirt now, close to my heart where it belongs, because it's no longer a reminder of betrayal. It's proof that love built on respect never breaks, even when people do. It's been months since everything fell apart, and in a strange way, I've never felt more whole. The silence that used to scare me now feels like a friend, one that doesn't demand perfection or appearances, just honesty. Sometimes I still visit the lake where I proposed. The air there feels the same. Soft, familiar, like my mom's presence still lingers between the ripples. I sit on the old dock, hold the ring hanging from my neck, and remember what she always said. Love isn't measured by shine. It's measured by sincerity. I used to think she meant it as advice for marriage. Now I know it was a lesson about life. Emily tried to rebuild her image online. I've seen glimpses. New posts, motivational quotes, carefully filtered smiles. Maybe she's changed, or maybe she's just learned to hide better. Either way, I don't wish her harm. I've let that chapter close without bitterness. Some people are lessons, not losses. In the months that followed, I started fixing up my mom's old workshop, the one she used to spend weekends in, crafting little things that never sold but always mattered. I found an old wooden plaque she carved years ago, with one line etched into it. What's real doesn't need validation. I hung it by my desk, right above the ring box that once held my mother's legacy, and my biggest heartbreak. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. People can fake love, but they can't fake respect. And sometimes, losing someone who disrespected your heart is the universe's way of giving it back to you. So now, when I touch that ring and feel its familiar warmth, I don't think of betrayal. I think of my mom, and how she saved me one last time even after she was gone.